Hello, welcome back to the Inner. Today I'm joined by my friend Lance Haynes Jr.
What's going on, man?
Hey Lance, long time no see. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been good, man. I've been doing good. How you been?
Great myself.
That's
So
what's up.
let's see. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Okay, like Nelson said, my name is Lance Haynes Jr. Pretty much born and raised in Beaumont, Texas, my whole life. Uh, kind of grew up an athletic kid, kind of quiet to myself always. Uh, had pretty much a normal childhood. Friends, girlfriends, stuff like that. Normal things. I played basketball. Kind of got into a little uh, my artistic expression about my teenage years, maybe 15, 16. Yeah, so pretty much that's pretty much my upbringing.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's see. Recently, or within the last few years, you released a few books. Could you talk about that a little bit? How'd you really get into writing? How'd you get into poetry?
Okay. Basically I had a friend who was a writer, kind of more of a artist, a rapper, and I just was intrigued by his by the creativity behind it. I later realized that's because I was a poet myself, and I kind of just got into it. One day I just dabbled and dabbled in it, and I realized I actually had a talent in it and writing, just in general poetry with stories or anything. So originally I wanted to be a music artist. I wanted to do music. So it started as lyrics, writing lyrics, and then it kind of just transitioned into poetry. That's actually my first release was a collection of poetry, and then later the novels and short stories came on after that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard of a similar story with a few other people.
Uh-huh.
Some rappers I wish would have just stuck to poetry. Like
I feel you.
I remember in school they used to say that you reminded them of Pusha T, but I always kind of always made me think of Kendrick a little bit.
Yeah, I hear that
And
too.
Kendrick is somebody I've always said does better as a poet than he does a rapper.
Okay. I hear you.
which which isn't an insult, is more so just that there's a lot of thought, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of opinion, a lot of feelings, and
Uh,
sometimes the beat get in the way.
yeah. Uh-huh. That's how they should do acapella.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So how would you kind of describe your writing style, your creative
Right.
flow?
Okay. Uh well I would say I'm more I can use a few words. I can say powerful, bold, I've heard that, uh influential, uh I've heard religious. I don't know what that's what I've heard though. I don't know how to take it. I can say just to sum it up, I can say love and passionate. It's a lot of passion in my writing. It's like an intimate process for me, really getting into it. So yeah, I take it seriously, really get into that zone.
Okay. So what are some tools that you've used? What does that creative space look like for you? Like, for example, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that for a rapper like Snoop Dogg, he can't write unless he high. Not saying you got to do that, but what's
Yeah.
your getting into the zone look like for you? What does it take for you to get into that creative space where you can write?
Okay. So it can be multiple things. Sometimes I hear a melody and it'll just kind of flow through me and I get a feeling like an inspiration and I'll just write, go crazy and write a whole write many pages. Sometimes it can just be life, like interactions with different people, particularly older people and wisdom from the elders. Or a child, hearing some a child is saying make you think. Uh, it can be just life in general. Many things can inspire me, but to create, really, I really enjoy the silence, like pure silence. That's when I can really create the best. Yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that. Uh,
Uh-huh.
when a lot of people hear some of my teachings, they assume that I did a lot of studying beforehand, and I
Uh-huh.
made people laugh. Where I'm like, studying for me is taking a nap.
Yeah.
I just wake up and I know stuff after
Yeah.
that.
Mhm. That's crazy.
But you mentioned something interesting. I kind of like you to go into it a bit. You mentioned
Mhm.
learning from the older and learning from the younger.
Yeah.
'Cause everybody kind of know a little something, and whether they know it or not, people are brilliant in their own ways.
Yeah.
What
Of course.
uh what could you kind of say to what seems to be the war between the generations that's happening, where it's like old people hate
Yeah.
young people hate old people? Do you think it's a misunderstanding? What do you think could kind of bridge that gap, or what do you think is the main reasoning for such a gap? You kind
Uh-huh.
of answer that however you want.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. So, first of all, I feel like our generation, the younger, we can both learn from each other. The young generation can old from the old, and the older can learn from the young. I think with our generation, I mean the older generation, sorry, they it's kind of a lot of criticism. Maybe the way we do things, they don't really understand it. Uh, I feel like maybe they should take time to really get an understanding of what we do and why we do it, because there's always a why behind you do certain things, what you say, uh, and really just taking the time to really instruct them. If you feel like something maybe going a certain way that you don't think is right, maybe pulling them to the side and telling them, maybe you should do this way, young man or young woman. Uh, or it was a better way you could have did it. And I think now on the flip side, the younger generation, you know, maybe we can learn to be more silent. I think as young people, we kind of have that mentality where we know everything or we think we could do it our way and it'll be successful. But maybe there's some steps you can take that they didn't already took, that you can learn from without having to make those mistakes. So I think it's a give and take. We can both learn from each other. Particularly, our people, black people, it's a certain stigma in it with the old folks kind of talk down on us. But we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I respect that. I guess you probably agree with this statement. It's been a lot more soapboxes and rants than it has been conversations, and the
Yeah,
conversations will probably fix a lot of this stuff.
yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
And along that same vein, who are some individuals that you would consider inspirations? Not just in terms of writing, but just to you as a person.
uh, okay. I say one inspiration, my grandmother, who was actually a pastor. Uh, I got learned a lot of things from her growing up. Uh, I have some celebrities, from a distance, it's not really the same. I really enjoy Tupac, his music and his influence, and just the power in his voice and how he wanted the spark he had. He really wanted to make a change. I really inspired by that a lot. Writers, I would say when a lot of people ask me that, my inspirations are more rappers, poetry, than actual storytellers or novelists. Like you said, you mentioned Kendrick Lamar. He's one of them. J. Cole. Many people. I have a lot of inspirations from. Pick. I kind of pick and dab at from different people, kind of to craft my own style. You asked about writing style earlier. That's kind of how I did that. Got into that.
Yeah. So, uh, some of my people, if I was to kind of lean into that a bit, James Baldwin, Malcolm
James
X.
Baldwin. Oh yeah, for sure. Malcolm X,
Yeah,
Dr. King.
yeah. It's like
Yeah,
it's been like exciting, but at the same time heartbreaking for me to a certain extent when I listen to some of the debates that like James Baldwin had, and I'm like, I had the same conversation. That means like in 50
same thing.
years we ain't fixed this problem yet.
No.
that like almost word for word, beat for beat, tone for tone, like tone for tone, ideology to ideology. I've had that same conversation.
Yeah. That's sad. It's the
But
sad part.
like in oftentimes musicians, poets, like those who are in that creative space, I believe are some of the most powerful people on the planet, even if they
Yeah.
don't see themselves as that.
Yeah.
I in one of my previous episodes I did, my brother Charles, he talked about how there's like three major keys to a stable civilization, which is
Okay.
industry, education, and I mean industry, architecture, and entertainment.
Okay.
Entertainment is just as powerful as the industry. Or
Yeah.
industry just as powerful as agriculture. And what people don't realize is that it's kind of like a dual relationship that creative expression and entertainment has with the world around it, where
Mhm.
it is simultaneously learning from the environment and kind of pushing that back onto the environment to say, haha, look at you, almost like a positive mockery. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it also influences the society around it,
That's true.
where I've seen certain musicians, like you mentioned, Tupac, who was able to kind of speak to the times in a way that people who normally wouldn't care to hear a melanated opinion were able
Mhm.
to kind of grasp. Um,
Yeah.
while other people who were sharing that same message got angry and missed the message. Like they
Uh-huh.
got angry, people couldn't understand what they were saying. Uh, and then there comes that shift where some people stay in the pocket of what I could say activism or just
Mhm.
telling the truth. Like I've heard a lot of artists say that I'm just kind of sharing, this is where I came from. I'm just talking about what I know. And then
Yeah.
there comes another shift where they're pushing a culture that they're not even a part of.
Uh-huh. Yeah. There's that too.
Like a lot of like right now in hip hop, there's a lot of rappers, there's a lot of artists talking about shooting and killing and ain't never held a gun,
Yeah.
ain't never did none of that stuff, but it
Uh-uh.
sells. It sells.
Itself. When it's so unnecessary. When it's a broader audience. When you can just be yourself and connect.
Yeah. If you could kind of talk about your perspective on like the music industry right now, how do you feel about hip hop in the way that it is,
Okay.
the way that it has evolved, or if you consider it is evolving?
Uh I believe it is evolving, but it's going towards a much careless and darker state, I wanna say. I don't think it's any more passion for the craft anymore. It's just about, how can I get paid as fast as possible? Which is really, you need money, so I can't knock it. Everybody want money, but you know, I just kind of miss that. There's some artists out there that really have a desire to make music and really create art. So, uh, but I just feel like it's kind of going in that direction as of late, and you know, and with the males, what you mentioned about the guns and things like that, more it's going more in a violent way too, as well. And with the women, sex sales, so you have that. But yeah, it's just kind of saddening as a fan of hip hop. But hey, that's how it is.
Yeah, because it's like we look back at music from now, mind you, I only recently started getting back into hip hop
I
just
got you.
because I'm a historian. The stories got me back into it.
Okay, I
The
got you.
history got me back, but I stopped listening to hip hop around 2012, 2013 because even around that time, I was like, this don't feel the same as music from a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
The
Yeah.
feeling was off. I couldn't describe it, but I'm like, this don't feel how music felt when I was little.
Mhm. I can relate.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I believe that goes into how what creates music. like in a lot of the older music, let's say it was vulgar, it was sexual, it was horrible, right? The
Mhm.
content is unhealthy, it's negative, shouldn't be replicated. You
Uh-huh.
felt every word they said
Yeah.
because they were actually experiencing it. It was actually
Yeah.
an expression of themselves.
That's true. I agree with that.
Like when uh do I want to use that example? Nah. Let's say Michael Jackson, right?
Okay.
Now, better yet, Prince. Prince.
All right.
He wrote "When Doves Cry,"
Yeah.
aired out all his uh, feelings he had about his family, his trauma. He just kind of let that hang. He wasn't really telling people how to feel about it, just that it happened.
Yeah.
He was just expressing himself. Uh, jump back to the day, and mind you, I've always similar to you. I've loved the lyrics. Like
Mhm.
Eminem, one of my favorite rappers, just because I like writing. I love the wordplay, Lil Wayne, Andre 3000,
Yeah.
just
Uh-huh.
because I love the lyricism. I love the wordplay.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like me as a fan of that craft, I have found it kind of saddening, as you said, to see the lack of lyrics over
Yeah.
the past few years.
Uh-huh.
Uh, is like a lack of effort and is like this will do. This will pay. Where's my
Yeah.
check?
Yeah, uh-huh. That's what it
And
is.
I want to say Andre 3000 says something similar where he like there's no heart in it anymore.
Mm-mm.
Uh what do you believe could kind of it in your own opinion, what do you believe could kind of solve that problem? Could kind of change the way that music is going? Because we're both fans. I don't think we want the genre to die out.
Uh-huh. I think kind of like when you say that, I think of like a puppet and a puppet master. They these guys are getting well with the platforms today, you don't really need as much to be signed on a label or to get exposure. You can kind of set your phone down and do your own thing. That's a problem too. Some people that really well, everybody has their own voice, so I won't say they don't deserve a platform, but on a large scale, it's some people maybe I don't think should have a reach, you know. But that could be a problem. But going back to what I was saying, the puppet and the puppet master, the music execs, I feel like, and the label owners, maybe if they had a change of narrative to push out a certain message and what's the word I'm looking for? An approach, then if they maybe signed or got artists who really did have a passion for it, that would with them having a reach, that would change the way people saw music and it would kind of bring it back to what it was. But you know that would take time and that'd take a whole lot of changing. So that's just a thought though, opinion.
Yeah. Do you think it's intentional that certain ideologies are being pushed a bit more and a bit more
Definitely,
blatant in the music now?
definitely. I think so. The whole conspiracy theory things, they got those, but I do think it's some hidden agendas. Definitely.
Yeah. And since we kind of on the topic, I kind of threw out some of my favorite. Uh I haven't gotten to ask somebody this on the show yet. Who would you
Yeah.
say are some of like, let's say your top five as far as
Okay.
artists?
Top five artists?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Mm, I gotta throw Tupac in there. Lauren Hill in there somewhere. I'll say Kendrick. Let me see. Uh, Kanye as of recently kind of in the Bay Area, but old Kanye. I'll say somewhere in there. Who else can I put? It's really a toss up. Um, I'll probably say. You see, I feel like I put too many modern people. I want to get somebody old. Uh, Let me see. Who can I throw in there? I'm gonna just go with Cole right now. I can't think. I throw him in there.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
a bad list. I
Decent.
I've been a Lauryn Hill fan for forever. I think we all
Yeah.
grew up on that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure.
How you feel about her being late and stuff? They've been talking about that a lot.
I see that. That's crazy. She kind of had an attitude like, "Hey, deal with it. I'm here now." It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
funny.
from what I hear, she been late for like the last 20 years. So at this point, it can
Yeah.
be expected that
Uh-huh.
if it's scheduled for 7, come at 11.
Uh-huh. Yep. Come on, black people time.
Yeah, man. So who are some artists that haven't collabed yet that you would love to see work together?
Let me see. Mm, I remember at one point, you mentioned Andre 3000. I really wanted to hear Andre 3000 and a Kendrick collab. Maybe that would have been nice. Or a Dream collab, probably. Pac and a really beautiful vocalist, maybe any modern vocalist. That would have been something nice. I would have wanted to hear. Yeah,
Let's they just said that Andre 3000 announced his album.
yeah. I think I seen something about that.
Yeah. This probably the last thing we getting from him. So
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Dang, how long it's been since he dropped since?
17 years.
Dang, that's a long time.
Yeah, this is
Wow.
first solo album. I'm looking forward to. Like I said, he one of my favorite lyricists.
Mhm.
Anybody that can watch some of my other favorites in the feature deserves respect.
Uh-huh.
Certain people that you make the mistake of putting them first in the song, you just made sure that nobody finna listen to the rest of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Some artists just have that voice where if you put them on, you're gonna get overshine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like Lil Wayne been doing that lately in
Mhm.
features. Well, not just
Yeah.
features, but his own solo music. But his features picked up again where he been kind of going on a hit list. If that's what it looked like to me. He just been marking people off his list that he ain't kind of went bar for bar with in a while or at
Uh-huh.
all.
Yeah. I always liked Lil Wayne. I kind of grew up on him. Just household. Yeah. I
Yeah.
always liked Lil Wayne.
Yeah. Wayne, Drake, and Nicki was kind of like the soundtrack of us growing up.
Yeah. Big three. Yeah.
Let's see. So kind of backing out of the music topic a bit and kind of just looking at the world right now.
Mhm.
A lot of issues in the world, uh, racism, political stuff, like other political stuff. There's all
Mhm.
types of isms and things like that. Uh, what would be your solution, right? Let's say you were given a platform, you were given a space, you were given the authority to kind of speak to the world,
Yeah.
make it all hear you. What would you say? What are some things that you would share in order to kind of change those issues a bit? Or what are some ideas you have that could possibly solve some of that?
Mhm. So that's so crazy. Just ask me that. Somebody just literally asked me this same question. If I had the world listening, what would I say? I told them I'll probably take the moment to tell them about God and what He's done in my life, specifically Jesus. Uh, just how He saved me and done different things, and really the unparalleled love He has, and that would really be a message: love and compassion, and more really care for your neighbor. I feel like in our time, it's more about what can I do to really make sure I'm good? and really focus on myself when really, I feel like self-care is a good thing, but we have to care for our people, the people around us, and show love and compassion to people and just be caring. I feel like that's kind of just in the world today, it's really kind of fading away. So that'll pretty sum up my message. More love and compassion for sure.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So, how would you, let's see, before I ask that, um, I've heard a story, kind of like a parable, where
Yeah.
a teacher in a school had all the students stand in the hallway with balloons. You might have read this. And they wrote their name on the balloon. And then they had them throw them out into the hallway and scramble them around. And then they gave them like 5 minutes to find their balloon. And nobody found theirs when the time was up.
Mhm.
Then the teacher kind of changed instructions. They then said, pick up the balloon in front of you and then hand it to the person whose name is on
Okay.
it. And in
Okay.
less than 5 minutes, everybody had theirs. So, kind of just to agree with you a bit on that,
Yeah.
when we start taking care of each other, we'll indirectly be taking care of ourselves, where
Yeah. I
community
like
help
that.
is self
Yeah.
help,
Yeah.
community care is self care.
Sure.
Uh, Growing up, I heard a lot that it takes a village to raise a child. And
Mhm.
sadly, we got in our 20s and ain't no village no more.
Nah. I
Like
grew
the
up on that same
village,
thing.
yeah, like the village started breaking up back when, let's say, we was in like middle school, late elementary and stuff, where even then the adults wasn't getting along. Like, even speaking to my personal life a little bit, there's cousins I never really hung out with just because our parents never got along.
Wow.
So by the time we grew up, it's like, yeah, that's your cousin, but I don't know them.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So like, even in a family sense, it's been more divided. Like, for a lot of people, they'll say once like the patriarch or the matriarch of the family passes away, people start separating. But I'm like, shoot, before that, they was already not
Mhm.
getting along. Uh, what do you believe is the cause of, I guess you could say, the social separation, that great divide that's been happening, where families have been getting smaller, even down to something as simple as a mother, father, and kids has been mother and kids, dad and kids,
Mhm.
just some kids sometimes. Sometimes they don't have either parent. What do
Yeah.
you think has been the cause of that?
Uh, I can say a lot of things, but selfishness can play a part. Uh, uh, I can say a lack of love, going back to love and compassion. Multiple things. I feel like that would be kind of, you have to go deeper to really, to each specific relationship. You have
Yeah.
to dig deeper into that to see why. But just on the outside looking in, as a just a guess or an opinion, I could say that those are among many things.
Yeah. So when it gets into, like I said, those family structures, the village,
Hmm.
let's narrow this down to Beaumont.
Okay.
What is the vision, if you have one, for this city, for the hometown?
For Beaumont, okay. So I feel like the problem with Beaumont is there's a lack of inspiration. I feel like a lot of kids, they grow up here and everybody, one of the things we hear a lot is when they grow up, they say they want to leave Beaumont and go somewhere else. But I feel like, I always felt like this, this is our hometown. This is where we grew up. This is where we had our, got our war wounds, knee scrapes, childhood stories, this is where our heart is at. So I feel like we should go back to, going back to community and, really working to just make it a better place. Because everybody, it's some people that'll never grow up and get out of this city. And some people that always be here and they'll never see the world really. So I feel like as a community, there are things we can do. I don't really have all the answers, you know. But what I can say is there needs to be that the inspiration for the younger generation, the youth, that they can be somebody, that it's just not somebody you see a celebrity on TV or you see any person that's doing well for themselves, they could be you too. Not just come because you come from little old Boma, you're stuck here. You can do something. So I feel like that inspiration would really help a lot of people and really change the negative outlook on the city for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I've kind of shared a similar thing in private with a few other people where
Mhm.
I've seen the same issue, a lack of inspiration, a lack of creativity,
Mhm.
because Beaumont's different than other cities.
Yeah.
Beaumont isn't a city that's already made up.
Mhm.
It's a blank canvas, meaning it is what we make it.
Yeah,
We don't have the
it's true.
privilege of growing up in a city that's already well developed and already has its tourist attractions and things like that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of free space to kind of work with.
Mhm. Yeah,
And that's what
I
even
agree
makes
with that.
some of the crime in the area rough, is because as separated as we are, we feel like one big family around here. So
Mhm.
almost every situation almost feel like family. It's like, dang,
So
I
close.
didn't know them, but my coworker knew them. My friend knew
Uh-huh.
them. It's never something that
Yeah.
happens where nobody knew who that was.
Mhm. That's true. It's so small, such a small city. It's the biggest city, big compared to the other cities around us, but
Yeah.
small, pretty
So it's
small.
like getting into, like, I guess that leads into like the school system and the education system. Like, you might have felt the same way. I know I did, but I didn't learn much in school. I learned a lot outside of school. I did
Yeah.
all my growing and developing outside of the curriculum.
Mhm.
Um, so it really seems like school isn't really a place for developing creativity, at least as it is now.
Mm-mm.
It's like when we were little, or if we had the right teachers. There are some fantastic teachers out here.
Yeah, I
Like,
agree.
uh one of them, I hope I get her on one day, Miss Pruitt. The- she actually loved to teach. Actually loves her class.
Uh-huh. I heard of her. I never took her though. I heard the name before for sure.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if I could get her on. She retired, so it sounds like she
Yeah.
got a lot of free time.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
But there's some teachers around that really love to teach, but testing gets in the way, discipline gets in the way, and it seems like all these separate issues start to overlap. Where it's
Mhm.
like, see, let's say there is a mastermind. The guy is smart, who's ever after this upcoming generation, because you have school failing, you have home failing, you have entertainment failing, you got the food failing. It's like
Mhm.
all the necessary parts of building up a healthy and stable person are all horrible for the
Yeah.
generation that's coming up in it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I always felt like with school, particularly high school, it should be you should have your basics maybe early on, probably freshman, sophomore year, but once you start getting older and getting ready to leave, the child should be able to decide, okay, this is maybe what I want to do with my life and have school just be strictly focused on in that direction instead of just coming to school, PE, taking these math courses, and learning equations that I'm never going to use in life. So I've always felt like that about school.
Yeah, I ain't looked at the formula for slope since the last time I took it,
Uh-uh.
since the last time I needed it on the test.
Uh-uh. At all.
Which is rough because I've always been smart. I just didn't like math because I didn't think it would apply to me in life. And
Uh-huh.
I was right. I didn't want to learn it because I didn't feel like I needed it.
Yeah.
But that's something I'd like to hear your take on. If you got to design the way school is set up.
Mhm.
Like, let's say pre-K or kindergarten up till 12th grade. How would you kind of organize that? Uh, what are some courses you'd add in as mandatory? What are some things you'd make elective? Uh,
Okay.
how would you kind of organize that?
Yeah. Okay. So, in the childhood, like really, really young, elementary, maybe I'd have certain things that's essential for life. You know, I have emotional control. That's kind of something that gets skipped over. Uh, you know, we're kind of taught. If somebody makes fun of you or somebody says something about you, you show that side to them. But that's not always correct because that translates to being an adult. You can't have that manager that's kind of getting on your nerves. You want to tell them off, and then you have no job. So emotional control definitely at a young age. Uh, One thing kind of as getting older as teenager, I have more of an emphasis on sex education. Teaching kids. If you do this or that, this will be the result. You can have kids, you can have babies, you can have diseases. You know, more of an emphasis on that. Uh, and then kind of going back to what I was saying. About the having courses that's you know to do away with the unnecessary things, but strictly focus on a kid saying, this is what I want to do in my life in the future, and teachers and instructors, kind of guiding them in that direction, showing them what they need to do. But then, if you had that, that would take away college. That would take away the need for college. If you had that, if you had a system set up in high school that would prepare a kid for the for a career, you know, then and that goes all the way back to money. So that's something that I would implement in school. Some some things.
Yeah. The way it seems is kind of like the way the education system is designed. It's more about creating workers rather than thinkers, rather
Yeah,
than like even if you get a business degree, it's more about teaching you how to work in somebody else's business.
that's true. I agree with that.
So something that I've been saying, which is probably why they won't let me speak in schools, or at least I haven't yet, is because I'd very openly tell people not to go to college.
Mhm.
Go to trade school instead. Because the trade itself is the job. Like that is the money,
Mhm.
instant payback.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, most of the people older than me who got their degrees don't have a job anything related to what their degree was for.
Uh-uh.
Like but and that's baffling. Like in the older generation, like our grandparents' age, the idea of not going to college is almost blasphemy just because of how much they had to fight to
To
go to
get it.
college.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And like in my family, both of my grandmothers, like my mom side and my dad's side, were the first in the family to go to college.
Okay.
So for their grandson to be out here saying don't go to college is weird.
Uh-huh.
Like I went for a little bit, dropped out. I might finish that degree, maybe, maybe not.
I did the same
But
thing.
yeah, but trade school I find to be a much more successful route because it's like if you know how, like if you learn carpentry, you forever know how to work with wood.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
learn to be an electrician, you can kind of fall into any job because this world runs on electricity. You can work
Yeah.
anywhere. If you learn to be a plumber, goodness, this is Texas where we don't prepare for the winter that comes every year. You get to fix pipes all year.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
When it gets cold and it blow the power grid out because Texas won't fix it. Hey, guess what? You an electrician. That means you could count on having money in the winter.
Mhm.
Guaranteed. We in a high hurricane area. A carpenter, like most of the houses around here made out of wood.
Mhm.
You get to go work on houses and make all that money after the hurricane come that
Yeah.
or when a hurricane come because never mind. I won't talk about that.
I got it.
But it's like if you learn the right skill, like it's the difference between I'd say skill based versus clout based.
Mhm,
It's like you get the degree, you got the clout that says you should be paid a certain amount, but you don't necessarily get the skills because that was the reason I dropped out of college is because I was going for construction. Started and they tried to make us do that online. I'm like, I can't actually learn this online on the fly. I don't just want to pass this class. I want to learn this skill set.
mhm,
So it's like if you want to pass, like if you want to graduate college, there's ways to do so without hard work.
mhm. Just a little
Where
bit,
it's
man.
possible to graduate and not to have obtained a skill.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, if we're talking trade school, more than likely you've actually developed that trade.
Yeah.
You actually know how to do that and you kind of set for life. And since you know how to do it, you can teach other people how to do
Mhm.
it.
And you have it under your belt going forward in the future to really
Yeah.
dive into it for sure.
So that's always been, well, not always, but that's been my outlook since right before graduation
Mhm.
is that college was kind of a setup.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Luckily, I figured that out before I got too far in debt. Uh,
Yeah.
Speaking of that, how you feel about the government messaging us about student loans?
Oh, I haven't heard about that. That's
Yeah,
been a thing?
they've been emailing us to start paying our student loans back
Oh, that's crazy.
because
That's something.
one of Biden's campaigns was that he was going to try to cancel student loans. And I
Mm,
don't follow politics much, but I have
me
seen
neither.
that he's tried multiple times to outright cancel them, and they got denied by the rest of the government every time.
Oh.
So at most, he's just been postponing the due date of when, like he's been freezing it and pushing it back
Uh-huh.
over and over again. And now this is finally when, like, he didn't pushed it back for like 2 years now.
Mhm. Wow. So they
uh,
hitting their people up like, "Hey, you need those loans."
yeah, which is bothersome to a lot of people. And I've agreed with some of their reasoning. They're like, y'all just sent a few $1 billion to Ukraine and to Israel.
Uh-huh.
Y'all don't need my money. You
Yeah.
got billions to spend.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is your opinion or stance concerning what's happening in Israel? Or do you have a stance on what's happening over there?
Um, I can't really speak on it. I haven't really done my due diligence really as much as I should, just being
That's
honest.
safe.
So I can't I can't really speak too much on it. I wouldn't even I'm not as into it as much, so
Yeah, that's a respectable answer. I wish more people would say, I ain't studied that yet. Well, let's see. Uh, we're getting ready to close.
Okay.
Um, so let's see. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share? You know, the whole world gonna watch this video because I'm expecting you to be famous in pretty soon.
Hey,
So
I appreciate
this
that,
is
man.
kind of me just kind of encouraging your future in that
Yeah.
you're not big yet,
Uh-huh.
but you will be.
I appreciate that. So, I'll pretty much just say, never let anybody stop you from a dream or any passion you set in your heart. Go for it and go full throttle into it. Really dig deep. And if you have a love for something, really, explore that, you know, and see how far you can get with it because you never know until you try. Definitely. So it'll be my thought for the world.
Cool. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your books. What's the names of your books? What are they about? And where can people find them?
Okay. So I have two collections of poetry that all of them are self-published. So I have two collections of poetry and two novels. The first one I ever published in 2020 was it's a collection of poems called The Dove, The Panther, The Spear. It's just basically poems about my life, growing up, different things I've experienced. Uh, the same as with the second collection of poetry called An Ode to Life, pretty much, but it's more of a mature version. As I got older and young adulthood. Uh, Third book I've self-published is a novel called Hell Scion. It's about this young adult, this painter. He's kind of struggling with life, with his uh I don't want to say religion, his belief, in God and temptation, and really kind of balancing, who he is and who he wants to be. Uh, that's called Hell Scion. And then my fourth one, this is the one I spent the most time on, throughout the duration of my entire writing since I was a kid, about 16 until it was published in 2022. So it's called For the Love of Fairing. That's it's a sci-fi fantasy, and that's basically a reflection of my real life in a fantasy sense. So it's about a young kid named Benjamin Brooks. Uh, it translates from me having a really strong desire as a young kid to know my purpose and who I wanted to be and who I was created to be. And like I said, it's in a fantasy sense. So that's Benjamin actually discovering his ancestry. Actually has an alien ancestry. So a fun spin on that. And it's a really emotional, powerful book. It's more than just fantasy, it's really something that I feel like people can really connect with and enjoy and love. And I really wanted to have a nostalgic taste, when you digest it. So I really put a lot of love and passion into that one. That's my magnum opus. For the love of
Cool.
fame, for sure.
Well, that's great. And I believe you told me you got one in the works. Do you have a title for that one yet?
I can't really go into the details about that one, but it's in uh it's in the same world as For the Love of Fame. That's what I'm gonna say about that one.
All right.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Lance, it's been great having you on.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate you, bro. Definitely.
like I said, bright future.
Thank you, bro.
So I'd
Same,
rather
likewise.
congratulate you ahead of time.
Yeah, sure. Likewise, likewise.
So if you could, before we close out officially, would you mind praying for the viewers?
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. Okay, so uh dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking that you just touch the hearts of anyone's listening to this, that you will lead them and guide their paths, Father, that you will show them who you designed them to be, and that you're looking at their past and their futures all at one time, and that you have an expected end for them, Father. And I just pray that you guide them and protect them throughout their journey of life, and that you reveal your love to them, and that you've always loved them, and that you care for them. Maybe when no one else in the world they feel like nobody else cares, but you care. And I just pray you reveal yourself to them, Lord. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Again, thank you for joining me.
Definitely appreciate
This
it.
has been great.
Yeah, sure.
And if people want to connect with you, where can they connect with you? You have an email, social
Uh-huh.
media.
Yeah. So on Instagram as Lance CHJ. So you can find me on there. I'm on my email is lancehj00 at gmail.com. And pretty much on everything else, I'm just Lance Haynes Jr. Pretty easy to find. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it for this episode. It's been great.
Yeah.
Until next time.